Men don't fear strong women. They fear calm women who don't react to confusion. Because when a woman stays soft and disciplined, control disappears. Female energy becomes powerful the moment a woman stops explaining herself and starts standing firmly in who she is. Most women are taught, subtly and repeatedly, that if they are misunderstood, it is their responsibility to clarify, soften, justify, or adjust. So they explain their tone, their boundaries, their silence, their expectations. They over-communicate emotions, hoping to be seen clearly. But power is rarely found in over-explanation. Power lives in certainty. When a woman knows who she is, she no longer feels the urge to convince others of her intentions or goodness. She understands that clarity is not something you chase from people who benefit from misunderstanding you. The moment she stops explaining, something shifts. Her words become fewer but heavier. Her presence becomes grounded. She no longer negotiates her values to make someone comfortable. She no longer rehearses conversations in her head, trying to anticipate objections or emotional reactions. She doesn't rush to fill silence with justification. Silence becomes a tool, not a punishment, not a fear, but a statement of self-trust. This is where female energy becomes confusing to many men, because they are used to emotional labor being visible, verbal, reactive. When that labor disappears, it forces them to confront their own uncertainty. Standing firmly in who she is does not mean becoming cold or detached. It means becoming internally anchored. She still feels deeply, but she no longer leaks emotion in places where it will be dismissed, minimized, or weaponized against her. She chooses where her energy goes. She chooses where her energy goes. She chooses when to speak. She understands that not every misunderstanding deserves correction. Some misunderstandings reveal more about the listener than the speaker. When a woman stands firm, she stops shrinking herself to maintain harmony. She allows discomfort to exist without trying to fix it. This is where respect begins, not because she demands it, but because she models self-respect so clearly that it becomes undeniable. Many men misinterpret this shift as distance, arrogance, or emotional withdrawal. In reality, it is emotional maturity. It is a woman no longer outsourcing her sense of worth to reactions, replies, or reassurance. She understands that if someone wants access to her inner world, they must approach with consistency, clarity, and respect. She does not chase understanding from someone who is committed to confusion. She no longer debates her boundaries. She enforces them quietly, consistently, and without drama. This kind of female energy is powerful because it removes volatility from the dynamic. There is no emotional chaos to control, no buttons to press, no reactions to provoke. Her calm becomes confrontational to insecure minds. When she doesn't explain herself, it forces others to listen more carefully, to reflect more honestly, or to walk away, and she is at peace with all three outcomes. She knows that being misunderstood by the wrong people is often the price of being authentic. Standing firmly in who she is also means accepting that not everyone will like her version of peace. Some people are only comfortable with her when she is accommodating, overgiving, or emotionally available on demand. When she steps into firmness, those dynamics collapse. She no longer rescues conversations. She no longer carries emotional weight that isn't hers. She doesn't reward inconsistency with access. This is not punishment. This is alignment. Her energy becomes selective, intentional, and deeply self-protective. Men who are emotionally mature recognize this energy immediately. They feel the stability in it. They sense that she is not performing femininity for approval. She is not trying to be impressive. She is simply rooted. This creates safety. But for men who rely on confusion, mixed signals, or emotional dependency to feel powerful, her firmness feels threatening. Not because she is dominant, but because she is unmovable. She doesn't react the way they expect. She doesn't bend when tested. She doesn't argue when disrespected. She disengages without hostility and speaks without over-explaining. A woman standing firmly in who she is understands that explanations are only useful when there is mutual respect. She knows that clarity without respect becomes self-betrayal. So she chooses presence over persuasion. She allows her actions to speak. She allows patterns to reveal truths. She trusts that the right people will feel her energy without needing it translated. Her confidence is quiet, but it's not passive. It's deliberate. This energy also transforms how she sees herself. She no longer measures her worth by how well she is understood. She measures it by how aligned she feels after an interaction. She checks in with her nervous system instead of public opinion. She asks herself whether she feels calm, grounded, and intact, not whether she was liked. This internal orientation changes everything. Her decisions become cleaner. Her boundaries become clearer. Her relationships become fewer but deeper. When she stands firmly in who she is, she stops apologizing for emotional standards. She doesn't apologize for needing consistency. She doesn't apologize for walking away from confusion. She doesn't apologize for choosing peace over potential. She understands that explaining herself repeatedly to the same person is not communication, it is self-abandonment. So she stops. And in stopping, she becomes powerful. This is the female energy men don't understand because it cannot be negotiated with charm or pressure. It cannot be rushed. It cannot be guilted. It doesn't rise in response to attention, and it doesn't collapse in response to withdrawal. It remains steady, and steadiness is rare. Steadiness forces honesty. It forces intention. It forces people to either meet her where she stands or remove themselves from her path. When a woman stands firmly in who she is, she becomes unforgettable not because she tries to be, but because her energy leaves an imprint. People remember how she didn't beg, didn't over-explain, didn't react. They remember how she chose herself without announcing it. They remember the calm that couldn't be shaken. They remember the presence that didn't ask for permission to exist. Men don't fear feminine softness. They struggle with the emotional discipline of a woman who doesn't react to confusion or inconsistency. Softness has never been the problem. Sensitivity has never been the weakness. What unsettles many men is when softness is paired with restraint, when warmth exists without availability on demand, when care is present but not negotiable. Emotional discipline in a woman disrupts familiar dynamics because it removes leverage. It takes away the power of mixed signals, delayed responses, half-effort attention, and emotional unpredictability. Many men are conditioned to believe that feminine energy is reactive, that if they pull back, she will move closer. If they create uncertainty, she will seek clarity. If they offer inconsistency, she will try harder to stabilize the connection. Emotional discipline breaks this pattern entirely. A disciplined woman does not panic when energy shifts. She does not chase reassurance when communication becomes unclear. She observes, she notices, and she adjusts her access accordingly, without drama, without confrontation, without emotional bargaining. This is deeply confusing to men who equate emotional intensity with connection. They are used to emotion being expressed immediately, visibly, and often impulsively. So when a woman feels something but chooses not to react impulsively, it challenges their expectations. Her silence is not passive aggression. Her pause is not punishment. It is regulation. She understands that reacting to confusion only rewards it. She understands that inconsistency does not deserve emotional performance. Emotional discipline means she does not explain herself in moments of emotional turbulence. She does not demand clarity from someone who has not shown the capacity to provide it. She does not argue with behavior. She lets behavior speak for itself. When words and actions don't align, she trusts what she sees instead of what she hopes. This creates a quiet authority, not dominance, but self-leadership. Men who are emotionally immature often interpret this as coldness. In truth, it is containment. She contains her emotions instead of spilling them into unstable environments. She protects her inner world. She understands that not every feeling needs to be shared immediately, and not every confusion deserves a response. This level of self-control is confronting because it reveals imbalance in those who rely on emotional reactions to feel secure or significant. A woman with emotional discipline does not try to manage a man's feelings for him. She doesn't soften her boundaries to prevent his discomfort. She doesn't perform emotional labor to keep him engaged. She allows him to experience the natural consequences of his behavior. If he becomes inconsistent, she becomes less available. If he becomes unclear, she becomes observant. If he becomes distant, she becomes grounded in herself rather than anxious about the connection. This steadiness is unsettling because it removes predictability. not unpredictability in behavior, but unpredictability in manipulation. There are no emotional buttons to push, no reactions to trigger, no insecurity to exploit. Her nervous system is regulated. She is not controlled by anticipation or fear of loss. She does not overinterpret silence. She does not overinterpret silence. She does not chase explanations. She trusts that what is meant for her will not require emotional chaos to maintain. Men who are used to emotional volatility often mistake this calm for lack of interest. But interest does not require emotional instability. Care does not require emotional instability. Care does not require anxiety. Attraction does not require sacrifice of self. A disciplined woman can care deeply and still walk away quietly when patterns reveal misalignment. That is the part many men don't understand. They expect softness to come with tolerance. They expect empathy to come with self-abandonment. Emotional discipline proves that softness can coexist with standards. This kind of woman does not threaten, give ultimatums, or dramatize exits. She simply disengages with dignity. She does not need to announce that she is pulling back. Her energy shifts naturally. Her availability changes. Her attention becomes selective. And this forces clarity. Either the man steps up with consistency and intention, or the connection dissolves without conflict. Emotional discipline also means she does not personalize inconsistency. She does not internalize someone else's confusion as a reflection of her worth. She understands that people act according to their capacity, not her value. This internal separation gives her emotional freedom. She no longer feels the urge to prove, persuade, or convince. She is not waiting to be chosen. She is choosing alignment. Men who are emotionally grounded find this energy stabilizing. They respect it because it mirrors their own self-control. But men who rely on emotional chaos feel exposed by it. They feel unseen not because she ignores them, but because she refuses to meet them in dysfunction. She does not reward hot and cold behavior with emotional engagement. She does not compete for attention. She does not chase clarity from someone who thrives in ambiguity. This discipline changes the power dynamic without her trying to change anything. She does not assert dominance. She asserts self-respect. Her calm becomes the standard. Her consistency becomes the baseline. And anything below that simply doesn't gain access. She doesn't harden herself. She doesn't close her heart. She simply becomes selective about where she places her emotional energy. Men struggle with this because it removes urgency-based attraction. There is no adrenaline, no emotional roller coaster, no dramatic tension. There is peace, and peace requires presence. Peace requires honesty. Peace requires effort. Those unwilling to meet that level will label it boring, cold, or distant. But those capable of emotional depth recognize it as safety. A woman with emotional depth recognizes it as safety. A woman with emotional discipline is not emotionally unavailable. She is emotionally intentional. She gives when there is reciprocity. She invests when there is consistency. She opens when there is trust. Until then, she remains grounded, soft, and self-contained. Her energy does not fluctuate based on attention. It remains stable because it is rooted internally. This is why men don't fear softness. They fear losing access to a woman who no longer reacts to confusion or inconsistency. They fear not being able to control the emotional temperature of the connection. They fear having to show up clearly, honestly, and consistently. Emotional discipline raises the standard without ever saying a word.